All right, we've made it to episode 9 of today's podcast of Preaching Young. Episode 9. Y'all said we couldn't make it till 4, and here we are at episode 9. I'm proud of today, and I'm proud of our people. We should probably introduce ourselves. My name is Aiden Crozier. I am the pastor here at Trinity Southern Baptist Church in Falmouth, Kentucky. Population of
15,000?
little. That's Pendleton. In our county, that is 15,000. You're all right.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it is.
That means the city of Falmouth is way less than that.
5, 7, 7,000 maybe. Go ahead.
Well, okay. Anyway, my name's Andrew Baker.
What do you do?
I am the youth leader here, worship leader here.
Yep.
That's one of my many titles.
I am Brittany. I am the secretary.
No.
Administrative assistant.
Administrative
Hold
assistant.
on. I am the administrative assistant. I didn't know that.
And today's podcast is brought to you by Paul's Tentmakers. Paul Tentmakers.
You know, I'm glad you said that because I need a tent.
For all of your tent
We need a
making
tent
needs, contact Paul. That's all I got for the sponsor. That's all I got for the sponsors.
We got to get better at sponsors.
We need to spend a little bit of time on that.
So if you would like to sponsor our podcast, please reach out and do so.
But listen, I'm excited. Today has been a fun and filled day. It's technically Wednesday here. We're recording this a couple days earlier than we normally would. And you just got done preaching.
I did. It was actually very awesome. It was fun.
What'd you preach on?
I preach on Romans chapter 10, which pretty much just talks about how we should be the hands and feet of God. And Paul is addressing the fact that he's calling everybody. He's calling them out, saying, "How can they believe? How can they hear of someone if you don't tell them?"
What got you inspired to do that?
Outreach.
What about it?
Just everything about outreach, because right now we are in a season of, what do you call it? Pandemic. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're in a pandemic.
Quarantine?
We're in a quarantine.
Season of quarantine?
Whatever it is. But it's very interesting to watch all these churches. We talked about this a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to see all these churches.
What their view on outreach is.
Yeah, what they think about outreach, why they're waiting so long to do outreach,
Right.
anything.
I saw Pastor John Groves. Shout out to Pastor John Groves, and he actually just put on his Facebook. He has this thing that says, sermons don't make disciples, and he's exactly right. So many times we think that just preaching on Sundays is going to be enough, or just just having church is good enough. But those aren't the things that make disciples. Those aren't the things that's going to help build up God's kingdom. It's people that are actually going to sit there and build relationships with people, and are going to encourage one another and lift each other up and check on each other and hold each other accountable. Those are the things that are going to really help us do more than what we're doing. And I think sometimes we get into the routine of church. We get in the routine of church, and it really breaks my heart. I'm doing a new series this Sunday called The Church Defined.
Church Defined. And
this is kind of the thing that I'm really going to challenge our church, because I think as we start to regather here soon, the things that I really want to challenge our church is that we don't need to be stuck in the routine, right? We don't want to get into the rut of just Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Sunday morning. That we call that church. That's not church. And biblically speaking, I don't know. I was trying to find this out. I was trying to do research from the Google yesterday, because I was trying to figure out who came up with that tradition. Who came up with Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night? Good. Right? I don't know who came up with it. It's not biblical, right? Doing it in that order.
I've even seen one church do a Thursday night.
You could do a church on a Thursday. You could do a church on a Thursday night. You could do it. It's just interesting to me. So, I think we just have to be very careful not to get stuck in our routine or our rut, especially when it comes to outreach, right? Outreach has to be important to us. We talk about it all the time.
I think we do. I think that seems to be the major theme of all of our.
But the reason it's a major theme is because
it's very essential,
and it's an important part of what we're doing.
Very important, and I think I hit on that pretty well in my sermon today.
Let's talk about our outreach that we've done, even just from the march, right? We delivered cards to our local businesses. We fed 1,000 students lunches.
While they were on spring break, the school provided us. They provided us food, but not enough.
They gave us 200 meals.
Yeah, not enough.
We ended up having to provide an extra 800.
Which was fine. We ended up doing it for a week. It was actually pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, we've been. I think at the number 128. I think we fed 128 essential workers over the last 3 weeks. Just giving them lunches, showing them that we care for them. We've done goodie bags to all of our members. We've done so much as far as outreach, and I think it's important for us to do those things. And I've been encouraged by them, and And I know we're getting some stuff planned for seniors and all that stuff. But man, outreach is so important to a church, and it has to be a driving force to the church, because the community is not going to come inside your church. You have to go out into the community. It has to be that way.
And I like something that you said, because all the things that you just listed are very simple things. It doesn't cost any money to do.
Nope.
Really, it's very simple. And I think people overlook that. They try to make it complicated.
Yeah. That's the understatement of the century. I get phone calls from pastors all the time, and they're like, Abram, what team, you must have a team of like 30 people doing this. It's like, nah, unfortunately we don't. Like they think, Abram, you must have a team of people helping come up with the graphics and videos, editing your videos, and like, nah, just me and my little cell phone, right? So people,
it's amazing. It's amazing.
In the world we live in today, it's amazing what you can do with little, and I think God blesses. Well, God can do much with little, right? So we have to make sure that we're just being committed and obedient to what God has called us to do.
Amen, brother.
So anyway, I'm excited. Listen, we've been given the green light to reopen our churches on May 20th. Technically, I think they can meet right now. Really,
I was gonna say, I thought it was last Sunday.
Technically, you can.
Technically, whatever that was.
But our governor has asked us to wait till May 20th, and so we have tried to be respectful of that, and we're opening on May 24th. Are y'all excited about opening?
Very excited.
Are you nervous? Are you worried?
I think I'll speak for a lot of people, and people are excited to get back. People want. I don't know if people enjoy hearing the new normal, because I don't know how they feel about that. But I just think getting back to church, getting back to going to restaurants, any of this stuff. I feel like people are anxious. I feel like people want to do it. They're excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm excited. It's a hard thing to preach to nobody, right?
Yeah.
You just did tonight. How was it?
It's interesting. I don't know if it was harder, but it was definitely a different way of doing it.
No, there's no
Cause
feedback.
Because normally when when you're preaching normally, I mean, for me, I have to feed off the crowd.
Yeah.
Like if people are like giving me like a different look, or like, if they think a joke is funny, then,
Or if they don't think it's
or if they don't think it's
move
funny,
on real quick.
yeah, I can kind of snip it and just keep going. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting preaching to nothing.
Yeah, so I'm excited to finally get see people's faces when I'm preaching, and know that they're actually there, because sometimes I think online you don't know if they're actually listening or who's listening. So
That's a good point.
It's going to be nice to be able to see faces. It'll be nice to be able to sing together, and more importantly, I think even more, we called all of our members today to check on them, see how they were doing. But I think being able to look them in face to face and see how they're actually holding up, and see how they're actually doing. I think that's going to be really big for me, is because I worry about everybody, and I miss everybody, and I know through text messages and even phone calls, you don't always get the full picture.
Right.
Sometimes you need to be face to face. So I'm excited to get face to face and see how everybody's doing. And it should be interesting, but I'm also a little cautious. I'm also a little cautious. This virus is a real thing. I think sometimes we you either get to a point, half the people think it's not real, half the people think it's real, but it is a real thing, and we want to be as cautious as we can, because the reality is, if we're not cautious, they're just going to close us down again. So we want
regardless of your opinion on it.
Yeah, regardless.
I mean, that's just how it's going to happen.
Yeah, so we want to be cautious and make sure that there's no reason for anybody to say, well, we need to do this over again, or we need to stop, right? So let's talk about some things that we're doing and putting in place to keep our members safe.
Oh, well, some stuff that we're doing is we're going to have sanitation stations where you can just go and get some hand sanitizer. We're going to have disposable masks as they come in. So if they want to wear a mask, which we're not enforcing people have to wear masks, but we're saying, hey, if you don't feel comfortable, you can. If you don't, that's okay too. Which that's one thing that I think might get a little difficult, is different other people's opinions, because there is so many opinions. So how do you think you're gonna?
Well, and that's the thing is, and we're gonna try to be as clear as we can that if you are gonna walk in here and you're gonna be uncomfortable with people not wearing masks, you probably shouldn't come. If you're gonna walk in here and you're gonna be uncomfortable with people wearing masks, then you probably shouldn't come. If you're okay with hey, I'm wearing a mask for my benefit, or I'm not, or I don't care, and I don't really care what happens. Like, it's gonna be up to you. It's gonna be your prerogative, and you're gonna have to live with the decision. We're not going to enforce it, mainly because who am I to enforce anything? I'm just a preacher, right? So
And I think people.
We're setting it up so that people.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're doing everything we can as far as the
Yes.
church goes.
We're doing everything
to
we
take
can.
out offering, pass the plates, take out the greeting time,
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah. Colton's going to be building us an offering plate thing that you can just slide money in at the
Right.
back of the church.
So we're doing everything we can,
Yeah.
and as far as enforcing what people are gonna do, you can't do that.
No,
Yeah.
and for me, I want to encourage us to love each other and to know that not everybody has the same opinion as you,
And that's okay.
and not everybody can wear a mask. I know that some people, there's breathing issues and there's medical issues, and so really it's nobody's business if you wear one or not. So we're going to try our best to be as smart as we can, to put in place as many things that we can to make sure that we took out the hymns and the Bibles.
Pins.
And the pins. That way people aren't touching it, because we're doing 2 services that day, which is not normal for us here at Trinity. We're going to do 2 services, and we're going to hopefully split the church in half, hopefully. And we're going to see how it goes. The other thing is, I don't know how long this will last. I don't know if we'll do 2 services for a month or 2. I don't know if we'll only do it for a couple weeks and say, we're good. I mean, I don't know. This is like...
Well, we'll really know come May 24th.
Yeah, we'll know May 24th.
We'll know 100%.
We're playing this by ear to an nth degree.
And it's surprising to me to see there are some churches who are they're planning for August, they're planning for October.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's crazy.
I don't even know what next week looks like.
And part of that, because I was asking about this, what's the benefit of somebody waiting? And I heard that a lot of churches are waiting because of kids. Here's the thing, I love this. This pandemic has caused families to worship together in their homes. And I think that's so funny, because one of the things we don't do at children's church at this church, I believe in having kids worshiping with you.
Multi-generational.
I believe having a multi-generational service. Yeah, we want kids to be able to see their parents cry and pray and sing hymns. We want them to learn those motions and movements. And
Well, part of the reason is because you grew up that way.
I grew up that way. Yep.
Your dad was a pastor, so.
And not only that, but I learned. So then it was so much easier for me to take over a church, because I knew, or do anything, right? When I became a worship leader, youth leader, those things were already instilled in me. So I knew the motions and the cadences and just everything about a church service, just from growing up in church. And I think it helped me transition a lot better. Because we always go, why are the 18-year-olds leaving church? It's because they never were in church. They don't know what church is.
Yeah.
And when you grow up in children's church, and even now that you can stay in youth throughout service, and then they go, okay, well now you're 18, you're an adult, you need to set through service. They're not used to it. So you have to be very careful. And I just think it's very funny, because I've been watching parents on Facebook, and they'll be like, my kid's like singing the songs with us, and they're all week long they're saying things that the preacher said on Sunday. I'm like, yeah, that's why we have church. That's why we have kids in church on Sundays, because they do learn that stuff, and we do see those motions going through there. And I'll get phone calls all the time from parents that are like, my kid during the dinner table says, and all of God's people say amen, right? Because we do that in our service. So those are the things that I think are fun to watch. And
I think we assume that kids are just kids.
Yep.
But I mean, kids learn based upon watching. Like they watch us, they watch you, they watch everybody. So that's how they learn. So you put them in a service, you put them in a separate building in a school, Sunday school room or whatever. They don't learn anything about how church works, because you don't put them in church.
Well,
but when they're in church, they get to see those things. They see you cry, they see you worship, like you said.
Yeah,
So,
the other thing is with that is I think some parents want to put it all on like Sunday school teachers,
Yes.
youth leaders, stuff like that, to actually teach their kids about Jesus and who he is and the gospel, and you can't do that. I
Yep.
mean, I think the most encouraging thing from me growing up was seeing my parents have a relationship with God, and I'm like, oh, I can connect with them through having a relationship with Jesus. It's
as
not on
as a
other
church,
things.
as a youth leader, speaking for myself at least, as when students, youth show up to our Sunday school classes or on Wednesday nights, we should just be encouraging them, refreshing them, giving them new things, new ideas. I mean, the majority of the work should be done at home.
Yeah.
really, ultimately,
Think about it. I mean,
And I've heard a pastor once say, we don't want kids in there because we're talking about serious, mature things. I'm like, what are you talking about? What you know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about, like, if they're really young, they don't understand it anyway. right? When they get older, like, they need to hear this stuff. They need to hear what a sin is. They need to understand it. I'd rather them hear it in church than hear it by a secular world or to be taught to them in
Newsflash, social
schools.
media, I mean, parents would be amazed at how many things kids' eyes go on
If
throughout
your
a day.
if your kid's on Snapchat, you better believe they're seeing
Mhm.
inappropriate things multiple times a day.
And the thing is, they already know.
Yep.
They already know all these things. They know what sin is because they see it every day.
At a young age.
And you can't hide them from it.
No.
That's the world we live in.
And I don't know any church that's talking about such a mature topic or thing
That a kid can't.
that a kid can't
Yeah.
hear. If you're doing it, if it's that mature of what you're saying, then you're doing it wrong anyway, and,
Right.
and you probably shouldn't be doing it. But it's very interesting to me, and I even know some churches that are waiting till June 15th because, or I guess it would be whatever that Sunday is after June 15th, because that's when they're letting daycare and youth start back up. And I know they're waiting for them because they're like, I just don't think our kids will sit in church. And it's like, yeah, they won't sit in church because they never had to before. Like, get them in that routine of sitting in church, and I mean, we have countless of stories of kids that have, were rowdy when they first started, but when they start doing it every Sunday, it becomes a habit. They know exactly what to expect come Sunday morning. They know that they're going to be quiet because there's a prayer, and so it's important to get your kids in there. I think it's what's going to save our churches in the next generation. It's not going to be these mega churches. It's not going to be prosperity gospel. It's not going to be praise and worship band. It's going to be kids learning emotions, kids becoming leaders inside their churches, and that's how else are they going to learn how to run a church if they're not given an opportunity to see how a church is run, or given an opportunity to lead in some way, shape, or form.
Well, like you said, they're the next generation, so
Yep.
We're expecting them to step up and take over the church and
Yep.
continue doing what the church is supposed to do. But if we don't show them, we don't lead them in the way of doing it, they're never going to know what to do.
Yeah, you don't just give a kid a book and
Right.
tell them to read it. You practice the words over and over again until they get
That's a
it.
good way to put it.
And a part of it is we need to start teaching our young kids how to minister. Let's say it that way. We need to teach our young kids how to minister to the older generation. Because I think a lot of times especially when we have because there's some churches that really look for leadership in their youth, but then they'll say, all right, well, your first place should be the youth, leading the youth, which is a good place for them to be. But at some point, we have to start teaching these younger generations how to teach the older generation, the ones who are retiring, the ones who are tired, the ones who can't preach anymore, right, or can't teach anymore. They just physically can't. And so we need to start learning we have to start mentoring young people. Then we have to start teaching them how to lead the older generation.
Yeah.
One thing that we actually had here at Trinity is Youth Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was amazed about how many of our older congregation was just blown away of our youth and saying like, wow, this is so awesome that you guys are doing this. They loved that the youth ran the service. They loved that someone younger than them was giving them the message,
Yes.
giving them songs to sing. They were amazed by it. And I think some pastors think in their head, well, my congregation would not like that because they're older. Who wants to listen to someone younger than them preach the word to them?
I think
But
you're
I
right
don't
there.
think that's the thing.
I heard a lot of encouragement that Sunday, not for me, but just older people in the church saying how encouraged they were by seeing all the kids doing everything, collecting offering, leading worship. They were very encouraged by it. So I think
we still use our students in our services,
Yeah,
right?
still do.
Still
Yeah.
through Bible readings and different things.
what does two things: puts them involved in church.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
and
encourages
so
young
we
older
even
people.
rely on our students a lot. If someone can't lead worship, if Andrew couldn't lead worship, we know we could go to a few of our youth and be like, hey, we have this opportunity. Do you want to do it? And most of the time they'll step up and say, yeah, I want to do that. And those are great opportunities for youth to be out there practicing church, practicing the gospel, practicing sharing with people the gospel. So.
I also think it helps that you guys are so involved in the service, right? I think it helps for them to say, oh, if Andrew can lead worship.
Yeah.
No
Nice.
offense. No offense.
Oh, thanks.
But
I'm taking it.
or if Brittany can do, I think it's really, I think it motivates them as well to see, the people that they are looking up to on Wednesday nights leading the service on Sunday mornings. I think it helps them. I think it puts in perspective. These are the guys that are teaching me, and they're not only teaching me, but then they're also leading, my parents. I think it really says a lot. So, being involved, I think, is very important. And
Good stuff.
family worship is more important. I just think family worship is going to be the
Moral of
key
the story.
to growing,
Yeah, moral of the story.
growing the church. Which is probably, I saw an article that said, are churches acting like malls in the midst of Amazon? Now, what do y'all think about this? First off,
Churches
explain
acting
that.
like
Well, what do you think? Because malls are outdated, and maybe malls probably wasn't the great one. Maybe they should have said Walmart or something,
Yeah.
or brick and mortars. Like our churches, the brick and mortar in the midst of Amazon. Amazon is rocking and rolling. I don't even shop anywhere else, to be honest with you, except
You
for
buy everything from Amazon.
Everyone's
Grills.
You talk about anything,
I mean, everything.
anything. I mean,
You actually have
what,
on his in
what
his
is there
desk-
not to get from Amazon?
on your desk in your office? You have a plaque.
Well,
that
and
says,
you don't even have to leave your house. You might have
If
to
it's
wait
not,
a
I
little
do
bit.
I do. One of
best
my
customer.
One of our members
It's
made
on
me
sales,
a
on the-
no, it's number one customer.
Yeah, number one customer.
Number one customer. But I think it's a good point though, because the way that if we focus on the building, right, which is the way the brick and mortar stores focused on the building. If we're not paying attention to what Walmart's a great example. I used to work at Walmart. I love Walmart too, but Walmart, I think, is doing a pretty good job of balancing, the in-store person thing, but also online. Now, they need more cashiers. I think they have more cashiers. They would be killing the in-store thing. So is there a way that we can balance this as a church so that we're not just the brick and mortar store that's, relying on customers from 1990s to walk in the doors? Can we sit there and utilize both? I think that's the biggest question. Are we doing it effectively? Can we be more effective? Can we bring in better technology? Of course.
Great questions. Those are all great questions.
And I think this pandemic has helped us see that online is beneficial.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
we've said it before. I hope it doesn't stop either. I hope when we attend normal. Now that we have a date. Now that we have a date for Kentucky.
Well, and this is a good point. I think we will see firsthand when we all start going back to churches, the ones that stop, because there's a bunch. I know for a fact there's a bunch of churches that are going to stop this online stuff. So we're going to be able to see firsthand the churches that stop online and see how effective they are, and then the ones who continue it on. We're going to be able to see it in real time
Night and day.
on
Yeah.
how big of a difference it's going to be.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, what I would like to try to do, and this is something that we need to focus on probably too, is how do we get people to respond online? I think that's the hardest thing. Like they're responding and sporadically. We hear people throughout the week message us and want to make decisions and stuff. But how do we make sure it's as effective online as it is in person? I don't really know what the answer is.
It's hard to do. Yeah, it's still something we're trying to figure out. But that's the beauty of it.
There's this guy that started. I wish I should have did more research before we started. But he did and maybe I'll try to find this. We'll take a break. I'll try to look him up and I'll give it to his name. But there's this young guy that started an online church like just recently, and I can't remember the number, but it was outrageous how many people responded and made a profession of faith just online. And I think those are the guys that we're going to have to really start to look at on how to move forward, how they're doing it, because that's what we do in life. We just have to take what we see and move forward. But let's take a break. Let me look up who that guy is. And when we come back, I'll talk about him. We'll wrap it up with some
Final thoughts today.
final thoughts, and we'll call it a day.
All right, don't go anywhere.
All right, we're back from our break. This is Preaching Young, sponsored by Paul, tent maker,
Paul's tent making.
tent making services for all your tent making needs. I apologize. I've been trying to eat these.
We
peppermint
delayed the
patties.
beginning of our podcast today because Abram's just chewing on these little peppermints, and then we
They're
delayed.
so good, man. And then they go, let's go live. And I'm like, I can't. I gotta chew this real quick.
So we had to wait for him. So we apologize.
But anyway, to continue our discussion from last time,
He found the guy.
I found the guy. This guy is a pastor of. They call it Digital Church. He's the pastor of Digital Church. His name is Grayson Bearden. I don't know anything about him. I don't know his theology or nothing, but it said Grayson's the pastor of Digital Church that meets each week, and they hosted their very first digital baptism service on Easter, where he baptized over 100 converts who accepted Christ. been discipled and now attend his weekly services, many of whom come from Muslim or atheist families where they are unable to attend church. So, I mean, those are the things that we have to really start looking into if we want to see how to have church in the future, right? It's the digital realm. These guys are experts in it, and I try my best to lend an ear to them just because it's uncharted territory for us, for sure. What are your thoughts on online church?
I think online church is great. Like you said, it reaches a bunch of different people. Like, I would have never thought about atheists that's maybe in a family that's all atheists, where they don't feel comfortable saying, oh, I just went to church, or
Yeah.
Muslims that have to hide that they're Christians or family. I personally never thought about that, so that's awesome. I've never thought about it that way. But I also think that it is very important to have
Yes.
a community that you can go to and you can count on.
We were talking about we were talking about Matt Chandler. When Matt Chandler does his sermons online, like if you go to YouTube to the Village Church and watch one of his sermons, not saying I support Matt Chandler either. I don't know. I don't know anything about these guys. But you go to Matt Chandler. Matt Chandler he'll begin his service with an introduction that literally says, "Hey, appreciate you listening to the sermon. I appreciate you tuning in and using this as a resource. But this does not replace the local church. You need to be in a local church and pour into that local church." And I think that's a wonderful thing. I've never heard any other.
I was gonna say, I think we talked about the fact that nobody's doing that. Nobody's saying watch this, which I think it's good. It's a good idea. It's a good thing he's
Great
saying
idea.
that, because then he's saying, yeah, watch our stuff. You know, watch Elevation, watch whoever.
Nothing
watch
wrong
big
with
churches.
watching it.
Yeah, but he says also go to your local church.
Yes, but if you're using that as a church,
Yeah.
then you're missing out on the benefits of a church. There's a reason that we do have the building. There's a reason that we do meet every Sunday night. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, don't let it replace. And the same thing goes now in quarantine. You know, don't let online church replace coming to church, because
And I think we're seeing a blend in that, which is you have the people that are at church all the time. I think they are now really realizing the impact that church has on them, like the benefit of church. But then you have it's meshed with people online that go, you know, I have no idea. I didn't know that church was even this nice. I didn't realize that it was this relaxing. And I pray that we have to, as a church, especially as we regather, we have to be visitor focused, because we will start to get visitors. People are going to say, you know what, I'm comfortable enough with the service online that maybe I'm going to step into that church. Maybe I'm going to try them out. Maybe I'm going to see. And if we're not inwardly focused, if we're not visitor focused, then we really are going to miss something really big. And I've said this for years. Like 9/11 brought a lot of people to the church because they had a lot of questions, and the church, we got big-headed real quick. We thought they were there because of
Something
preaching
we were
styles,
doing,
we started doing praise and worship, and now they're showing up. And then they left big time. I mean, they left. It was an exodus inside of our churches, and I think this is another opportunity where God's going to open up the floodgates inside of our churches. And if we are focused only on our members, or we're only focused on, inside the building, we're going to miss out on a big opportunity. So I hope we're conscious of that.
you're good. That's a good point. Good point.
I appreciate it, brother.
Anyway,
Visitors are
Brittany was
important.
hold on.
Go ahead.
We caught Brittany in La La Land.
Oh my
No,
God.
Come back to Earth for a minute.
Let's talk about Brittany. God, we should have like a
Here I go,
segment.
guys. I'm gonna get roasted.
Let's call this next segment.
What should we call it?
Roast Brittany?
No, 'cause we're not gonna roast
we'll
you.
get sued.
Thoughts about Brittany.
We could do thoughts about Brittany.
Oh, thanks. What's
Or-
the-
Brittany can
what's-
participate in this segment.
Things I've noticed about Brittany.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Whoa!
This week, okay, that's good.
This week.
This is gonna be a reoccurring thing.
Here's what I've noticed about Brittany this week. Sometimes she acts like she has places to go.
Which is the funny thing, because we live at least half an hour away from church, if not more. Brittany lives more than that. But I drive, okay? I drive to church. So
I drive
we're on my
halfway to your
time.
house.
We're
We
on,
drive the same
we're on my
amount.
time, okay? You know what I mean? So I'm picking up here, so I'm getting in
So
here.
I just want to say,
He's always in a rush. I
to
agree.
anybody that's ever met her, or maybe you're a fan, you're going to meet her out in the store or something of this podcast, you're a fan of this podcast, and you meet Brittany, and you're going to sit there and go, wow, she really seemed like she had somewhere to go. She really doesn't. That's just how she is, right?
It's a very good point.
No.
Things I've known about
This
Brittany
is your
this week.
hold on. This is your segment. You can't comment.
Okay, let's hear
Oh
it.
my
Keep
goodness.
going.
That's all I've noticed.
That is true. This week in particular has been a lot of
Rushed.
In a rush. That's the word for
I
it.
am not in a rush. I enjoy being here.
Okay.
I like you guys
Just getting
sometimes.
really defensive.
Sometimes.
When you get defensive, that's they say that's key for a lie.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Listen. Well,
Anyway, that segment's over.
I hate to bring this up for the third week in a row, but we have been talking about Michael Jordan to Brittany
Oh,
for 3 weeks.
As a matter of fact, I just showed her a picture today. We
This
literally
picture is. Well, I'll post this picture. Send it to me. I'll post this one.
Okay, I will.
Michael Jordan and LeBron James side by side.
Both
And
holding championship
She looks
rings.
at them like she has no idea who they are.
And they're both holding. They're
we've
both
been
wearing
talking-
their respective
yes,
uniforms.
Cleveland and Chicago.
They're both holding trophies. They both have
Yes.
nothing hiding their faces.
Nope.
LeBron had a hat on, but that wouldn't make a
yeah,
difference.
but one of them had sunglasses.
Yeah, I
on.
think Michael had sunglasses.
Okay, whatever the point is, it's Michael Jordan.
Yes, I mean it was very clear who they are, and she still was like,
Kobe Bryant.
It really breaks my heart. So we're working on her.
That
I
picture does
pray
look like
that.
Kobe.
I just pray that at the end of the day,
If you're watching our YouTube, on Abram Crozier Ministries on YouTube, you can justify this for yourself.
yes.
So,
All right, I'm gonna do 2 final thoughts.
yeah,
What's
how
your
many
other
final thoughts? We had 2 last week, so we're gonna have 2 again this week.
Yeah, we're at 2 again. I'll start with my first one, which is this. Thank you for watching and listening to our podcast.
I'll second that one.
Here's the thing. I live by 2 simple principles in life: simplicity and consistency.
Wow, I've heard that one a million times.
And everything that we do, we want to be simple, and we also want to be consistent. And this is not a professional podcast. We don't have any fancy. Well, these microphones are actually pretty cool.
Yeah, don't say they're not fancy because Andrew might.
I spent a lot of money on these things. Okay.
But we don't have anything. It's not a fancy thing, but we want to be consistent in giving these podcasts out. And every time that we see comments or questions that we get to email, which we didn't. I don't even know if you've given out the email.
It's in our outro now, so if you stick around to the end of the episode, you hear the outro, which I bring up the
Sorry,
email, but that's okay.
I'm sorry, I
That's okay.
apologize.
That's okay.
But-
The
but-
email is preaching.
The
young.
emails, the comments, the likes, the shares, all those things are beneficial to us.
Very
And
much.
It encourages us, and it helps us move every week to do something else. And anyway, I'm encouraged by it, and so hopefully we'll be able to do this for the rest of the year. If not, we'll blame Brittany.
Thank you.
If for some reason this podcast ends up going plunk, it's Brittany's fault. Probably because she was in a rush to get out. Anyways.
Oh my goodness, Brittany, what are you doing? Okay, listen, let's talk about this too. Brittany just graduated.
Yeah, I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm
So-
pretty sure we went over this last.
No, we didn't.
I think we did.
No, okay, I'm about to ask a question. I know for a fact we didn't go. So
Okay.
what?
I think I can add an applause sound effect in there, so I'll do that right now.
Yeah, do that. So listen, what are your plans for the summer? What are your plans?
All right, guys. So we have church camp planned. That was bad. We have church camp planned for the first week of July. Well, it might be
Unfortunately, we don't
canceled.
cancel.
But I really want to take this time to,
Backpack
Figure out-
around Europe?
figure out where God wants me to go with my life. Try to decide what I want to do.
Don't rush God.
She's setting herself up for rushing because summer is
Yeah,
only so
don't
long.
rush.
I'm
God.
not rushing God. If He says, Brittany, I don't think you should do this, then guess what? I'm not going to do it. But
Why
my
you get your back
thing
turned
is,
to us?
because you guys are being very aggressive
Oh,
towards
yeah,
me.
she's
today,
got a shoulder turn.
and I feel
It's
very
like she is
attacked.
zoned out of our
I feel
conversation.
attacked, so this is my,
Sorry.
what's it called?
Defense mechanism.
Yeah.
You're undecided this summer. Right?
Yeah. I'm undecided. That's a good way to put it. But hey, I'm going to be doing work in either way.
These are the things that I hate about this virus. Final thoughts. This is official final thoughts. Divisiveness. One thing,
Can you
divisiveness.
explain?
It's a big word. Can you explain that, please?
I mean, I'm a college
Sorry.
graduate. I don't even know what that
I
means.
have to explain to these guys. They're from Campbell County. So,
Wow. Okay.
divisiveness. So, one thing that this virus has caused
It's division.
is division. Right?
Oh, couldn't have just said
Played
division.
by the media, played on by politics, played on by churches even. But the division that we are seeing is just really unbelievable to me. People are divided on everything, right? You're divided on the government, you're divided on the president, you're divided on if the virus is real or not, you're divided on if churches should open or not, you're divided on the masks, if you should wear a mask or not. The division is unbelievable, and people are very firm in where they're at. Right? They're firm on it.
Yeah.
Now, me as a pastor, I try to live by one rule. I call it the Furtick rule. Now, again, I don't, support Furtick or not. I could care less. But he doesn't ever talk about politics during his sermons, and so we try to do the same thing. We don't want to talk about politics or really because it doesn't benefit God. My opinion on politics does not benefit, is not going to benefit.
If anything, it hurts.
Yeah.
Because
It's not
if
going to
someone
benefit
looks at
my
you-
witness, it'll hurt it.
Yeah, it'll hurt your witness.
Thank you. Keep going.
It's good.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
No, you're right.
But I think that's important. But if it's not going to benefit your witness, then why say it?
Yes.
Like, why say
If
it
it,
at
if
all?
it does more harm than it does benefit, then,
Yeah.
then there's no
Amen.
reason to bring it up, right? There's
Yeah.
no reason. Because it doesn't, like, who I support in a president does not win me over people. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
this doesn't make any sense. So we try not to bring in politics on anything. Sometimes you guys will share stuff and I'm like, oh,
What
y'all don't
share it.
live by my code.
Well, my thing
We
is,
follow the
is
verdict rule pretty well.
Alright,
Yeah,
sometimes.
I
But
think
every once in a while y'all will be like, I'm gonna share this.
but I
I
think,
think you did on National Day of Prayer.
You probably did.
You made a
I just shared the National Day of Prayer thing that President Trump.
Politics.
Politics.
Yeah,
You brought in
politics.
But it's
politics.
not
She
politics.
didn't
I
know
was
she
just
did it. She didn't know she did it.
Okay, I'm sorry, but if something benefits Christianity, so someone big shares something, even if it's just this thing as National Day of Prayer, then you know what? That's cool because how many people see that? Just being honest, how many
He is
people
the
you think
president,
see
so
that?
probably a lot of people.
A lot of people. What do you mean?
Exactly, that's my thing. And the other thing is
That just contradicts
I
the point.
do think Abram does do a good job of this. Don't mean to give him a big head, but
Just feel bad. And
but
we're in a pretty big room.
yes.
I know I do.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Are you gonna let me finish? No, I'm not even gonna say it now.
Keep this in mind for next week on final thoughts or pretty thoughts on the week or whatever.
What do you mean?
I will.
Keep this in
I
mind.
If
didn't
she do this,
anything.
she'll shut down.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, that's what next week will be. This week she's rushing.
No, but
Next
I
week
am
she's shutting
serious.
down.
I do
Yeah,
think
go ahead.
Abram does a good job of this because, in all honesty, it doesn't matter what President Trump says, what Bernie
Bashir?
Sanders, Andy Bashir, anybody. It doesn't matter. It matters what God says is
Yes.
right. It doesn't matter.
Amen.
It does not matter either way.
good one.
It's what God says is right and what God says is wrong.
To quote Michael Jordan, Republicans buy sneakers too.
What?
And, okay, it's to tie that in. Republicans are
Right.
Christians too. Democrats are Christians too. Like when I preach, I'm not preaching to Democrats. I'm not preaching to Republicans. I'm not preaching to independents. Like I'm preaching to God's people.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, and here's the thing I've been really trying to push is, you know what? Jesus Christ died for our enemies. He didn't just die for Abram. He didn't just die for the people in my church or the people in my circle. But he also died for my enemies. You know, he died for the passion that gets on my nerves. He died for the family members that get on my nerves. He died for my enemies. So I have to try to love those people in the same way. And sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get the best of me. But
That's a good thing to leave in life,
But I do. I hate the divisiveness.
God loves your enemy.
And here's the thing, we're gonna see even more divisiveness as the days and months go by.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think one of the things we were talking about when church reopens, there's gonna be a divide automatically of the masks and the non-masks, and the singers and the
I
non-singers.
believe we call it mask shaming.
Yeah, mass shaming, and we're gonna see that. And it's just divided us more. And we don't need to be divided. This is the time when Christians should unite, show the world we're united, and then really get on getting the gospel out
Because
there.
the fact of the matter is what? We all have the same goal as Christians, right?
Hopefully,
Should have the same goal.
I hope so.
Which is just spread the
I
news.
know a lot of people that don't have that same goal.
Spread the gospel.
Which
I
is
know a lot of churches are just like, nah, we're good. We're just trying to do our own thing.
Real sad.
It is sad. So, but you know what I just did? I just did a little bit of divisiveness right there. I just do a little divisiveness there, and I apologize.
Wow.
I think your head got too big.
yeah.
He has that
This
issue.
is the greatest thing about this podcast, and this is why we're going to do it for the rest of my life. So, Brittany talk bit about me, because it's the only time she will.
That is true. She doesn't do this. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, all I'm
She
saying-
never says anything good about Abram until we're on the
Until
podcast.
we're on the air.
And then we're on the air, and then it's just like Abram's the best guy ever.
No, I think they can tell that.
I think let me just let you on a little secret, guys. All you listeners out there, I think they're more alike than they think.
Oh, I know it. That's why
That's why
it
they're
drives
brothers.
me nuts. All right.
What are you doing, Brittany?
Okay.
She's picking off her fingernail polish.
Well,
You
it's-
couldn't have picked a better time to do this.
Can-
We're in the middle
listen,
of the best
let me
podcast
tell-
on earth.
Let me tell you this, and we'll end this here. I was preaching at a revival, and I was trying to get my point across that if you want to be an effective pastor, it's not just the preaching that's going to do it, right? You have to get dirty. You have to let the kids run around and scream, And I was explaining that every Monday I vacuum the church, right? Because I want that church cleaned. And so I vacuum the church, and guess what I vacuum every Monday? Fingernail clippings.
Girls do that.
And so I was explaining this to the church. I was explaining this to this church, and everybody got so upset with me. They're like, "Ew, hey, Mark." One, my cleaning lady got mad because she's like, "I'm supposed to be."
You just
cleaning,
called her
not
out.
you." Number two, and other people were like, "Hey, why would you say that? What if it's somebody you know?" Like, and then I'm like, "No, I know who's doing it. It's Brittany.
It is not me.
It's right under her
Guys,
pew."
listen.
And today it proves it as well.
And she's
All
literally
the-
doing it
I'm
right
doing
now.
it
You
on
can't
the
see it on the
table. All-
podcast, even on the video portion, you can't see it. But I'm looking at a
All
pile
this,
of fingernail
listen,
polish.
let me speak, please.
Oh, you're right.
Oh,
told you.
let
Can
me
you see that?
speak.
No, you can't.
Stop!
I know I can zoom in.
We're trying to zoom in on the video
Guys,
portion of this.
all my ladies will understand. I have those Color Street nail things on where they're like stickers, and all you have to do is pick them off. I'm gonna throw it away.
Raise your hand if you care.
No, I don't.
Nobody
You
raises
guys
their
are
hand.
so mean to me.
So anyway, that's all we got today. So listen, make sure you tune in next week for Preaching Young, episode 10. We made it to 10. I can't believe it.
We're not there yet.
Double
Almost,
digits.
Don't jinx us.
Almost,
We're not to
almost.
episode 10
Oh no,
yet.
never mind. Knock on
I'm
wood.
Aiden Croger.
I'm Andrew Baker.
I'm Brittany
I
Fornash.
thought that was somebody knocking. This is Preaching Young. Our brother's supposed to get a jingle for us. I don't know when.
You gotta sing us the jingle
Preaching
again.
Young. That's it. Preaching Young. Wrap it up.
Hey guys, what's up? We thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you have any questions, you can email us at preachingyoung, no caps, no spaces, @gmail.com. Hope to see you next time.